I am working on the mics, folks. This is between the lines. And I'm still getting organized, so give me a second. Got to start and talk to the mayor, our guest tonight, and they said 10 seconds, and here I am. Somebody's left somewhere there. But the mayor is here. Mayor Frank's here tonight.
Good evening. Right. Glad to be here.
We are here. Thank you, everybody. The mayor's here, and she's got a lot to talk about. She brought more notes than I took in my entire college career, so that tells you something about she being a little bit better prepared than I am. But we got a lot to talk about. Last Thursday, we had to run a rerun because we got snowed out on our live program. We've gone to all live programs. We used to tape some, but it just got to where Brad's coaching career was interfering. So he coaches Oakdale, and he's doing a good job there. So it's better for us to go live and get everything done. How's it going?
Good. Busy.
Yeah, I want to talk about a number of different things. First, we always do 12-minute segments, and we talk about backgrounds and everything. And I obviously have heard your story 40 times, but a lot of people haven't. You grew up in a political family. Your father was active in a number of levels. We'll just go right through that. And he served and did some stuff. It was a friend of mine, and we both really legendary status in my book. But then you went off to Middle Tennessee State. Graduated from Anderson County or Webb?
Anderson County High School.
You transferred from Webb, right?
Yep.
Okay. And you got two brothers, two of my favorite people, attorney Lynn Phillips and the pride of the Georgia Bulldogs, Denny Phillips.
I know.
I mean, he's finally got it. Denny, you finally got it. You finally got the chance.
He turned off the TV, and they finally win.
That's right. It's no more. That's the way it works, though. That's what Caleb says. My son Caleb, all he talks about is he gets up in the morning. It's kind of like it's all sports or stocks. There's only two things I'll say to him, tell me about what's going on in school. The Grizzlies are picking up a new player. I mean, it's just like, and Denny was always Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to MTSU. You always had a political interest, probably. Tell us how it came. You did legislative work, I think, when you were in school?
Yes, I was an intern for no relation, but Representative Pete Phillips down. He was representative from Shelbyville, and I worked in his office in Calendar and Rules. Did get a degree in political science,
at MTSU, right?
And minor in philosophy, and I guess, Alan, just growing up at the dinner table where you overhear politics. Dad was Oliver Springs mayor. He was a county commissioner. I think he even did a little stint for a while as criminal investigator for the district attorney at the time.
Quite famous stint. He did well. He did well.
So, and then I just got involved in college, I guess.
First race you got involved in when you were a student?
Well, when I first kind of woke up and realized, I was always active. I helped my dad and whoever he was helping locally. I'd help spray paint signs or do whatever and do the mechanics. Helped register voters at Anderson County High School even before I registered.
You were a student,
yes. But politically, when I decided to get engaged, was President Reagan was in office. And, it's kind of interesting because I can remember watching a particular hearing and Joe Biden was grilling, the Reagan team. And it just clicked for me that I'm ready to get involved. And so then I just kind of pitched in, started volunteering at the local party headquarters in Murfreesboro, helped a state rep there, just got involved with the college Republicans. And then once Lee and I got married and we were here and started our business, I just got active again with the party and was always somebody that just helped other people, really.
I just want to point out that the best cornerback in football, Jalen Ramsey, and Lee came from the same town. I just want to point that out in Smyrna. He went to Smyrna, Florida State, and he's the Rams cornerback.
Oh, Smyrna is a different place now.
Oh, the whole place is. When I graduated MTSU 12 years before you did, roughly 12 or 13, and it was 30,000 people. No bypass, anything. I went back, I go back every once in a while, every 4 or 5 years, but I went back 10 years ago. It's 200,000 people.
Absolutely.
I went to see the mayor one time on a waste management issue. I went to visit with the mayor, and they said, Alan, we have tried everything to slow down growth. We put wheel taxes, property tax, nothing can stop it.
Impact fees, everything.
Nothing can stop it. Nothing.
Yes.
There's nothing we can do. Our infrastructure can't keep up.
Right.
But, you get all that flat land, middle of the state, vortex of the eastern United
Yes.
States, you're going to get business, right?
Yes, yeah.
And that's something we'll talk about in a later segment. Before you ran for mayor in 12, had you ever served before? Had you ever run for office before?
No.
No, we tried for years now. You know, everybody kept pushing you, and the Republican side, got to run. I can't. I got too busy. I got to run a store. I got to run a business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my kids were.
Yeah, they were little then.
And really, I had a lot of people asking me to run for things like state rep or those
Sure.
kind of offices.
Sure.
And then,
Required you to be away.
yes, and my kids were, no, you know, I'm going to be here. And when the mayor's race opened up and that became an opportunity, you know, I originally thought, no way, not me. I'm just somebody that helps other people who run for office.
Sure.
And then I thought, well, why not me? And that's how I stepped out there.
And it was a wise decision. Let me tell you, you don't measure children in success or failure. It doesn't matter what they do. They're your children, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, Yale, Sewanee, great families, great people. Your three sons turned out outstanding. Just really, really good. You said the youngest one's the most likely, right? Because Davis is a Phillips in my opinion. I mean, growing up, he looks like a Phillips. Atticus is kind of he looks like a Lee, and he's kind of a combination. But wow, what great kids! And you have a daughter-in-law, am I saying it right, who's now a city council person?
Yes.
In a big city in Florida.
In Venice, Florida.
Oh, in Venice. Okay.
Yes.
I thought
yes.
somebody thought Sarasota.
It's Sarasota County.
Okay.
So yeah.
But she's in the town of Venice.
Yes.
I always think of Venice as California. You know,
Yes.
I talk about that. But Venice,
Yeah.
Florida, where is that located? Where is that exactly? Gulf? Or Atlantic?
Well, it's about 30 minutes outside of Sarasota, Florida.
Okay,
So
help me with my geography.
don't ask
Gulf
me.
side, though,
Yes.
right? It's on the Gulf side. That's all I do. I know most of the Atlantic over the years, going back and forth, but the Gulf has difference. Like my wife started going to Gulf Shores and going to that side, and Naples. Naples is on the Atlantic, though, isn't it? No,
You know,
Naples is
I'm not
Yeah.
good at Florida geography. Ask me about Tennessee, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, so you get into it. You got all this work, and you and I both have worked on campaigns for 20-something years. I did it in the 70s, got away in Pittsburgh. I was driving through, similar to you, I was driving through Burger King, and I think it was 92. I can't remember. They canceled the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Boston for a trivial social issue, and that was it for me. I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy. You got to
Yeah.
respect everybody's traditions, and for them to disrupt those traditions kind of upset me a little bit. And I said, it's time to get back. And when I came back in '94, of course, I met you guys that time. That's when we got back started, and I'd had a 12-year liaison there, but it has changed. I remember when we all worked, we took a big picture in front of your business. There was probably, I guess, 100 of us out there. Come Fred Thompson.
Fred
Remember
Thompson,
that? And
yes.
we did, and he said, I got to go. You know, he came.
And he came,
He
yeah.
did come, and it was great.
I remember walking up to him. It was some kind of big tent event, and they had Cajun food. And I walked up to him, and I said, Senator Thompson, I'm the one who dropped a mail of our local folks asking you to come. He was like, I love that picture, and even the dog had a I love Fred sign, and he remembered that dog. He said he framed it and had it in his office.
Yeah. His
yeah.
son's wife, I think, in-laws, was on New York Avenue there, lived off of Utah right there on one of those side streets. So he was in town sometimes, but we used to tell the joke that Bill Frist would work 12-hour days hard, really a dedicated guy. And people would listen and make notes, and then Fred would come out, much like Donald Trump in a sense. He would come out and he would say, government spends too much. And then he'd go back to where we were. He just had that charm.
He did. I really miss Fred Thompson. I love Fred Thompson. And, you know, I think he represented everyone well. You know, the average, just the working man he could move everywhere, and
Yeah, he could.
He was a good communicator.
People don't forget, though, I'm a little older, but in '74 and '5 during Watergate, he was very active.
Yeah.
And then he was in the movie, and he had a very active role in Howard Baker's group on that and the committee. And he was just a really accomplished lawyer in the 70s.
Yes.
That led him into politics later after being in the movie careers and doing all that. Because I knew the Marie lady from Nashville when I was in college. I mean, I knew her family that was in that movie that during the
Yes.
Blanton scandal and all of that stuff. And, we've had some pretty good, I always thought Dick Fulton was one of the best mayors we ever had in Nashville, very progressive Democrat, but operated by, we kind of got all polarized in the last 20 years. And so many Democrats have joined the Republican Party. We were talking about that a couple days ago. But you look at the Republicans that are in office who have been Republicans now for 5 to 10 years, very legitimate. Every single one of them was a Democrat at one time, except for a few of them. Kind of like trading your football team, signing free agents, and we didn't really grow them all up from the inside. But we did. But I mean, there's others. But it's gotten to where there's not even really, and I mean this in the most respectful way, but the polarization of the national issues has got us to a point where it's hard for Democrats to do anything in Tennessee, in less urban areas. And it's hard for Republicans to do anything in rural areas of eastern Pennsylvania or Massachusetts. And it's gotten to where those issues really just dictate the way people vote. With technology and phones and YouTube, but sometimes there's more issues to it. I mean, you work with a county commission which is working much better than the county commission that I remember of 20 years ago. Less divisive, and that happens when you get good money flow. That's why I always are. We've got internet and taxes now. We got all this stuff we have to support. When we were fighting over a little bit of money, it was different. So,
well, I think there's also, Alan, I mean, you look at national polarization, I think there is more of a willingness and an understanding and maybe a dedicated focus on, we've got to take care of home first. And I love serving Anderson County and being a mayor and being local, because at the end of the day, that's where all the change happens. That's where it works. And I know we're impacted by national politics, no doubt. I'm not saying that's irrelevant. But
I was talking about voter behavior.
Yes,
But I think you're right. I think you're right on the local issues. And I've said this on the show 2 or 3 times. I have never seen anyone handle the COVID crisis any better than you did. Every day we got updates. Every day you really sunk a lot of time into that.
I did, yes.
And it was important.
Yes.
And you had to put up with some extreme views on both sides.
Yeah.
But you really handled it well, and you worked well. And I give the EMS department, they had a real challenge.
Yes,
you were
they
talking before the show about the shift into emergencies from transport.
Yes.
And if you don't understand that ambulance world, the ambulance does a lot of transporting of seniors, like from nursing homes to hospitals and home. But emergency calls, obviously, is like when your mother has sick and they got to go get her and she has to be at the hospital. And those have skyrocketed under COVID.
Yes, yeah.
But you have a grasp on all of that. I mean, it's just, it's been really good. And your husband's a zealot. He's a good man. Nobody works harder at politics and puts more time in. Him and my wife are both close, but those two really love it. So it's a political family. You're right. Yeah. And you guys are more, I've always been a campaign guy and an issue guy. You guys have great grasp of advocacy and issues, and that's what I think has helped you really deal with those things on a mayoral level.
Well, and I think, going back to polarization again, Alan, I think we could probably look back at, John F. Kennedy days, and, there were differences between the parties, but now you have really, really major differences in viewpoints in society on really big issues.
And I was 8 years old when he was shot, and I will tell you, everybody prayed on all sides. And those central issues that are so important to us.
Yes.
When you start taking away prayer or attacking the very values of we can't get along anymore. It's
That's
hard.
right.
It's hard.
Yes.
We have to stand. We can be polite and be civil.
Yeah.
I always kid Congressman Fleischman. He's a little too civil, but he's so nice to everybody. But it's just some things you can't stand for.
Yeah.
I mean, we can argue over gun rights and we can argue over certain things, but and we're strong for gun rights in Tennessee, of course. But when you get down to infringing on people's public liberties, but church is a whole nother game. When they start, and even in California, when they started not allowing churches to, you saw the Catholic Church in California, which is obviously the largest one, and several others start to file lawsuits that we're going to gather, we're going to pray.
Yes.
And they tried to shut them down for COVID. And there's always an excuse to shut the churches down, no matter what country you're in.
Yes,
but,
and that, that ignites a fire even in places like here where we're not experiencing that. It's by choice. Some churches are still I know in talking with somebody the other day, their church still wasn't meeting in person. But it's a different scenario than force, and that kind of ignited some political fires there.
And I always say there's a difference between an elective service and a conscripted service. And if you tell me I have to wear a mask in an area where I don't have to go or somebody else doesn't have to go, I don't approve of that. I don't like it. Now, if you're saying it's in a conscripted, like a courtroom or something, there's people there that are forced to be there.
Yeah.
So those rights I understand and can respect on an individual basis. But telling people they have to get a vaccine, that ended abruptly today. This is the live show. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that OSHA's mandate is stayed, and some other things and shots. I haven't read it all. I haven't had time, but we knew that was coming. We make the parallel of my body, my choice, and the bottom line is it fits here, but it doesn't fit here, and it fits here. And your governing here is kind of a. It's a little bit tricky because Oak Ridgers are part of your community.
Right.
A third of it, roughly. It used to be 45%, but now it's a third, and maybe a 34 or 5%. And there's a very pro-mask, very pro-vaccine, more of a Washington-type view of the way, not everybody, but the way things should be handled here. And then the county is exactly the opposite. But I really like the superintendent of schools in Anderson County.
Yeah, he does a very good job.
Very balanced, very reasonable. And he's been on the show, and I think they're all worried about the new school board elections and primaries, and there's no need to be worried. I think people all agree with that, et cetera. So you have a good working relationship with those people.
Yes.
And commission. It's gotten a lot better.
I think if you look at polling, and I'm not saying polling in a political sense, I'm saying polling and getting a sense of what the public thinks. They trust their locals, and I think you're seeing that, even here in Anderson County and in the region, there's a trust in local government.
Sure.
So
let's take a break. Let's take a break for a couple, 3 minutes here, show some commercials, and we'll be right back to talk about the top priorities in Anderson County over the next year.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
DEPR.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Ryan Spitzer has been a prosecutor in Anderson County since 2007, prosecuting more than 2,500 cases over the past decade. Ryan has been the Drug Task Force prosecutor for the past 7 years. Ryan donates time working with local nonprofits. A veteran, Ryan spent 6 years serving his country as an Army medic in the National Guard. Ryan is a family man who works hard every day to keep Anderson County families safe. Experience matters.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. I want to thank our sponsors, Ryan Spitzer, Judge Miller, and Judge Hunt, and some others for helping us out, and we're appreciative. We got a lot going on. We're talking about Mayor Terry Frank about all of the things. Anderson County's had a great year. I mean, COVID aside. We've had a great year.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about everything. Now, tell us about regional, upper, East Tennessee. You're very active in the Mayor's Association. I have mayors from other counties because I do a lot of work, talk about, Mayor Frank's coordinating this or doing this, and,
Well, I think regionally we, whether it's a trail project, Union County working with Campbell County, working with Anderson, we've got a regional group of mayors that meet almost weekly. I'll give you an example, Alan. When Smith and Wesson was the big grand announcement and grand opening, groundbreaking took place in Blount County, Mayor Mitchell invited me and Mayor Jacobs and Mayor Bradshaw to that event and spoke about how well we all work together. And anymore, with workforce, it's a regional, we're all Anderson County citizens we're probably going to drive up Pellissippi Parkway and work at Smith and Wesson,
Sure.
and we've got some of theirs coming back to work at SL or Y12, and so I think a lot of that, just deepening those relationships, has been good. A lot of that has really come out of COVID. We have strengthened the bonds immensely because we're all walking through this new challenge and we all want to take care of our citizens, and so we really upped our game with discussions and regular communication. There's still a lot of work to be done. We're all talking regionally about opiates. Mm-hmm. Alan, that is still such a huge issue, such a major problem. I would love to see us come out of COVID and get through that and then really hammer the opiate addiction issue with the fervor that, of an emergency situation. I mean, we've really got to up our game.
I think everybody recognizes that, especially fentanyl, and
Yes.
I think we've looked at it. Technology's helped you a lot in that. I mean, in the mayor's work. I mean, 20 years ago, you had to get on the phone, call one guy, and get on the phone, call this guy.
Yes.
And their meetings, where we're going to hold the meeting, and then half wouldn't show up.
Yes.
But I think now technology, you can Zoom together, everybody talks. You have a regular meeting every Monday or something? Or
No. Mayor Jacobs started and every Friday for the counties contiguous to Knox County. And then we have Development District Ethra. Governor Haslam, when he was in office, he realigned economic region, the economic ECD regions, workforce regions, and your development district all to be the same. So they used to be different maps, which has been really good for all these counties working together to solve workforce issues or, you name the issue.
Sure.
When you've got all the overlap, that works well.
I've said it to a lot of people, but what an outstanding governor he was. I mean,
he did an excellent job.
And we knew he would bring the business sense to it, but he embraced the conservative ideals and helped work through it. He just ran a tight ship. And if it's possible, Bill Haggard is another step up. I mean, this guy is just off the charts smart, and I really like him. He's got a lot of character and got great staff. He's working hard, and he's not a political. Bill Haslam had through his father and brother. He understood politics. Bill had been at it a while, from the back of the front. But Haggard's just worked his whole life.
Governor Haslam, a lot of, and I respect different political alignment. He always was criticized as not being conservative.
That's correct.
But if you are doing the numbers and you're an Excel spreadsheet kind of person,
that's right.
He reduced government in so many ways. He streamlined, he created efficiencies, he sold off assets, he got rid of a lot. And I don't know that
anybody else could have pulled that off.
I don't think so.
No,
and he just really, he didn't brag about those things. He just did it. And so I think that's one of those areas where he took the criticism from not being conservative, but yet if you were looking at what he did in many ways, it was, he got things done that nobody could have gotten done if they would have come out and said, here's what we're going to do. We're scaling back this department 15%. the fight wasn't there. He just quietly did it and made it happen.
And he allowed conservatives that he didn't necessarily agree with, but he allowed conservatives on conservative points to breathe, to get their programs through the thing, and to do what they need to do, because he knew that was Tennessee, and he was good with that. And, you know, and Billy's done a pretty good job, too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him in the same category, but I think he's just... he's had a tough 4 years.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he'd stay because I knew Bill from having dinner with excuse me, I'm jumping around again on that. But I think that Governor Lee, having dinner with him, I think he's really he really truly is a farmer, business owner kind of guy that wanted to try to make a difference, him and Marie. I'm surprised he ran for re-election because I thought he'd get tired of it. But he's done a good job.
I think we probably, out of him, would have seen more in areas... you know, trades. He's very passionate about education. I know Anderson County has a new TCAP facility that started under Randy Boyd, and Governor Lee saw it through, made it happen, saw that it was built. We would have seen more, but COVID hit, you know, and I think, Alan, you're in politics, you've seen this. COVID has really worn on leadership.
Oh,
I mean, all levels, from city mayors to city manager to county mayors to governors, because it's just that it's a black swan event, and it is, you know, nobody's used to this. This is the 100-year flood.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's not one-time event and we clean it up. We're still dealing with it, and so it's been
My
a challenge.
concern is. We had pandemics in 2008. We had pandemics in 2000. I guess go back to 2 or 3. And I have friends who are progressive Democratic medical people in the state and across the state. Alan, in the end, it doesn't matter. It's going to have to run through us.
Yeah.
It's you can
I
do
think
all
that's
these.
what's happening with this particular strain.
No, I think it's gone in a month or two. But
Yeah.
you know, most of my friends, and there's a lot of people that have Omicron, and that's why the numbers have become kind of irrelevant because everybody's going to get it. But it has a flu-like effect on people. You don't see people racing to the hospitals; they're not overflowed, and you know. So I think I think we're getting smarter. We're learning. We're adapting on how to treat it, what to do with it.
Yeah.
I think the media has been our worst enemy. I think we're trying to condition people, and we're trying to make them think certain things. And in today, you know, here's this. You don't know which side to believe or what to. Obviously, our co-field coach here, Brad, I apologize for saying Oakdale earlier to my co-field people, but you know, they lost a coach, a brother, and a mother in the same family, which speaks to genetics, and God rest their soul. But there were some severe things. But you know, I don't know. But I still think we're not overemphasizing, we're not overdoing things. But I think the national reaction to it has been a little bit overkill in terms of how they're treating it, or I don't know what I'm trying to say, because all of it's necessary, but let's count the masks that they wore, let's count this over here. I mean, people are pretty smart. Bill Lee said it. If you leave it to them, they'll figure it out. You know, let's give people a chance to figure out this on their own, you know, and do things, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I could argue that vaccination, and I'm vaccinated, but vaccination helps you with the effects of anything that comes forward, but it doesn't keep you from getting it. Everybody I know that's got it was vaccinated. They're all getting it, and I think the symptoms may be less. I don't know, but it's just not as much.
Well,
you know more than I do about that.
No, I don't. I mean, I'm still learning. I still read constantly. I'm still looking, you know, about the disease and getting into areas where it's, you know, I'm not someone who casually reads the medical journals, and you know, I found myself throughout all of this reading things that were really beyond my scope. In an effort to try to understand and get my mind around it. But ultimately, you know, I've been really extremely proud of the people of Anderson County. I think people have done a great job, and you know, maybe I'm just being a little bit philosophical here, but I do think when it comes to dealing with health, if we give people the information, if we give them the information,
accurate information.
They're going to do a good job.
Well,
and
that's pretty important, that's right.
That's how we've handled, health through the ages is educate. We don't.
That's right. Whether
we
that's
don't
right.
pit one person
Well, that's how we
against each
cured
other.
diseases and bubonic plagues, and we
Yeah.
learned about waste and materials. A place that we both are very familiar with, St. Mary's Elementary School in Oak Ridge.
Yes.
Both of our kids went there, all of our kids, and they handled it so smoothly. I mean, they had, I think, one case last year, not this year, but last year, one case, and they had masks and they did certain things, but it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Let's take one more break for 2 minutes. We'll be back.
Ryan Spitzer, for Circuit Court Judge, is also sponsoring tonight's program. Ryan is a prosecutor and Army medic for 6 years and a lifetime Tennessean. A graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, Ryan is dedicated to serving the citizens of Anderson County.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex is about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was point man on foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
To watch Alex take on this mountain, that's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
This has meant so much.
Thank you, DAV.
Alex Hussey, thank you for your service. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
I won't say that.
All right, we're back. We get more done during the break than we do during the show, but I'm learning stuff. The mayor's educating me. We're going to talk about new business, expanding. What's going on in Anderson County business-wise?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, Anderson County is just growing. We can look at not that tax money is what it's all about. Obviously, it's about putting food on the family's table,
right,
and being able to take care of your family and friends, but it is a reflection of what's happening. So sales tax has just exploded in Anderson County, tourism, as you said earlier, the money's there. So if you look back, for instance, at 2010, 2011, from a fund balance standpoint in Anderson County, it was below $1 million, and that year they put a freeze on all the spending.
I remember that, yeah.
And so now, this isn't including Rescue Act funds, so this isn't government funds. This is taxation. That fund balance is about $9 million.
Wow. The general fund balance, reserve, rainy day fund?
Yes, and then there's some that's set aside for capital and other things.
Wow.
And so your cash is $16 million. So if that gives you some kind of idea of where things have moved. And
explain to the viewers how technology has helped us gather internet tax, and we're now making $3 or $4 million a year, or $2 or $3 million extra off. When you call Amazon and you order up a jersey, Anderson County is getting some of that money.
Yes, absolutely they are.
And there's a lot of
that law, the legislature changed that, I guess, boy, time flies, Alan, so maybe 3 years ago now, it could be 4.
This is your 10th year.
I can't believe that.
Unbelievable.
I know. I can't believe that.
You're almost to 10 years. Wow.
I remember Jim Woodward many years ago making a presentation. He was then the finance director for Anderson County Schools, and he was talking about these old air units at Anderson County High School, and he said, these things are 25 years old, and I went, wait, what? And that like really hit me that I graduated, in 1986. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But anyhow, on growth, some of the stuff that you're seeing, I know folks are seeing it in the real estate market, land values. A lot of people are moving here. And then we're also having growing pains,
Infrastructure keeping up, what kind of pains?
Well, so like for instance, technology that you just mentioned has brought short-term rentals as an example, and people lease their homes out to folks that want to come and vacation here, be up by the lake, and so there are new issues with zoning.
Housing's out of control.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, my house has gone up 30% in value in a year and a half.
Yes,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
we got to go find another one.
Yes.
It's not a. But what do you count that to? I count it. Everybody's different. But there's a lot of movement to the south.
Yes.
But I think this is me, but I think it has to do with people are making a lot more money in the digital world than they do on the ground. I mean, people are making tons of money and they got to put it somewhere. Because that, when you're buying in Bitcoin and you're making $100,000 in a month, or you're doing people have a lot more money to spend.
Yes.
Do you think that's true?
I do, but I also think, Tennessee has been growing. So if you look at taxation, Tennessee continuously ranks as one of the lowest tax states in the nation.
No question.
So
Best state for
that's
business,
going to be, people are going to vote with their feet. And when you see other states kind of get into trouble, maybe poor fiscal management or pension issues that they've kind of punted down the road for many years, and then it starts eating away.
That's right.
A place like Tennessee looks a heck of a lot better. We are a great, Anderson County is a great example for a great place for retirees. You have a hospital here. You have Roane State. You're within distance of Pellissippi State. You have places where they can take auditing classes and do programming. You have senior centers. You have the Playhouse, the Oak Ridge Symphony, and things like that with a low tax rate and a low property tax rate in comparison.
It's all good.
They're going to come here.
That's right.
So
I went to the new senior center for the first time for their Christmas party. All the politicians get up front. I go back and sit with everybody because I'm their age, So we went back and they were kind enough to bring me some food and sit back there. And it's a really nice facility.
Yeah, it is.
It's really nice. And
how lucky are we? We've gone from no senior center a few years ago, and now we have a really nice one in the city of Oak Ridge. We've got one in the county. And I know, sometimes there's a political debate. I've had it with even some of my friends.
Sure.
That's not really a function of government. Well, they do improve health. And if you want to reduce emergency calls and falls and loneliness and all of those things from a health perspective, it is an excellent investment.
But what are you going to do with the $9 million? Common sense tells you need to invest in things that pay dividends for your citizens.
Yes,
whatever
absolutely.
It is,
they pay the bills.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And there's a big difference between that and going from a 2% raise to a 6% raise, or people still need to follow the rules and the structures and everything. But I agree with you.
Speaking of raises.
Okay, let's talk about raises. Yes.
Okay, are you getting well, Alan, I'm looking at, these are things that we're all going to be talking about in government. So I'm just
let's talk about the budget coming.
I'm going to let the citizens know, because I know they're seeing it out there in the marketplace. But
it's unbelievable.
We're having real inflationary challenges right now. So, you've got just the cost of infrastructure projects is escalated, but then we're just in this way. Well, you saw Governor Lee, I think 37% increase for correction officers at the state level.
Okay.
What's going to happen in your local government? That's something that you're probably going to hear a discussion about.
Right.
So, and what do we do? Inflation is really a hidden tax, and we're seeing that. people have gotten pay raises, they're doing better, but then you can buy less with it. I always equate some of these discussions and policies to those balloons that the Shriners do. You know, you push over here and then it pops out over here.
I think there's a justification for, and you haven't finished, I get that, but investing in our people and giving them raises or bonuses or whatever. I always like the bonuses because it's not reoccurring. But the $9 million doesn't really affect that because that's a non-reoccurring expense, whereas salaries, you've got to have it every year. So what do? You raise taxes? Do you have enough money coming in? What's your plan?
Well, we haven't entered into the budget process yet, but I think you have to. I mean, you need to look at the budget. We got to look at the numbers, but I think you're going to have to give raises.
No question.
I mean.
They can't keep employees at the jail.
They cannot. There are areas, and we, I will say this in EMS, and this is a discussion that some of us have had. What else do people want? Wages are important, but then, for instance, I'm active in several different organizations, and I'll often have some of the employees walk up to me and they'll say, Mayor Frank, we know that you're going to chime in. You know, could you get us flexible work hours, you know, for instance, at the development district? And these are younger folks that are coming in, and they would, they want to work at home.
That's what COVID did.
Or, you know, they want to work 4 days and then be off 3, or this week change a schedule. And in EMS, we have struggled, as have many EMS operations across the state, across the nation, and even internationally, if you do some research online. We changed the work schedules and reduced mandatory overtime, and that really turned things around. Now, we've done some raises as well, but we have many counties that are paying much more, but we've been able to recruit here because they want to have a life and they want to be able to get some rest and do some other things. So we're going to have to talk about some of those things.
I'm in the nuclear world, and I'm in the development world, and I have people. Here's the problem. You send somebody home for a year, 37-year-old professional. Let's be fair. I don't want to be sexist, but let's be fair. Women have much more on their plate than men do. Men are focused on this. Not all men, not all women, but women really have to work and have to go home and make sure that men are just kind of useless. They're kind of targeted, you know. But the problem is,
I don't know. I'm watching my son. He and Rachel are doing that.
Yeah, well, Rachel's holding the line.
The younger generation, there's much more job sharing.
I think there has to be. Yeah, I think so. I think so. But I think what we're getting at is they're home for a year. They don't have to pay for daycare. They don't have to pay for this. There are computers in the corner. They're getting their work done. But at the office, you sit down and drink coffee and BS for 20 minutes. There, you can go do something functional for your family, whether it be a woman or a man. Yeah. Correct my philosophy. Although all I hear is women with increased responsibilities are finding that that's benefiting them. Yes. We'll call it head of the household. And they deserve. So that I get, and that's technology. Yes. So we've created this nobody wants to come back to work stuff on site because I can do the job from home. I've proved I can do the job from home. And I know that many major corporations like in Oregon and California, and go back to your other point, Elon Musk just left California and brought his billions over to Texas where he could, actually there's some battery issues there, but they've really done it. So I would
love to have him in Tennessee.
Wouldn't that be great?
The Bull Run steam plant site, I was like, I just would love to see him take that site and put his flag in there. And but I don't know if we could make something like that happen or if it's big enough.
My son would never. I don't think my son will ever buy a car that uses gas. He studies it. He knows it. He doesn't have a social life as much as he just studies and he learns things and he gets things done. And he'll know. Of course, he knows every Titan thing ever and Grizzlies that ever born. But he really understands. These kids are living in technology and they understand, and they want electric vehicles and they want other things, and they just, there's a social price to pay for that. That's my problem.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, church on Zoom is I don't.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, we're animals, and we're spirit-filled,
But we got carbon bodies.
But I mean, we're social animals.
That's right.
And we need to hug and touch and look each other in the eye. And
that's right.
I think that's been one of the really hard things about COVID.
Well, I think that there's a lot of changes coming. We're going to take one more break and finish up. Chandler, you ready to go?
Ryan Spitzer has been a prosecutor in Anderson County since 2007, prosecuting more than 2,500 cases over the past decade. Ryan has been the Drug Task Force prosecutor for the past 7 years. Ryan donates time working with local nonprofits. A veteran, Ryan spent 6 years serving his country as an Army medic in the National Guard. Ryan is a family man who works hard every day to keep Anderson County families safe. Experience matters.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or Adult Protective Services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Welcome back to our final segment. We're with Mayor Franco. I think, and I can say this, is recognized as one of the finest mayors in East Tennessee. I don't get to West Tennessee, so I don't know, but nobody puts more work into it and study into it than she does. A lot of things going on. We have a new Family Justice Center. I've gotten to know those people I went to that little reception. You were there, where they had the open house. And
yes.
Just opened 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and they're doing a great job. They got a staff of 2 or 3, and the need's overwhelming.
Yes.
Elderly abuse, child abuse. I mean, they can't meet the needs.
Yeah.
And but I think, how'd y'all pull that off? Were you involved in that?
Well, just in the application part. So that was really General Clark's baby.
Yeah.
Melissa Miller, he brought her on board, and she's just doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely,
I mean,
she's committed.
Absolutely.
She was on the show. She did a good job.
Yeah.
She's really involved in it. But I always worry because when you're from another area and you come in here and you're not part of the clique, it's harder to get money raised and to do things. And so I think the community needs to rally behind her and her staff and really help all they can.
Right.
I mean, it's
one of those great examples of, I mean, really the whole concept itself, whether it's, one building that has all these points of contact, it's all about cooperation and collaboration.
That's correct. That's what she advocates, is that basically they got a lot of agencies working together.
Yes, and you do that, I mean, man, you can just go so much further. And you look right now, even in our county, I think a lot of the things that are going so well, you've got some great leadership in our cities, and everybody's talking and working together. We're looking at, okay, where does your utility line end? Where do we need to grow? How do we need to get to the citizens? A lot of those things, we're just doing a better job. I mean, just the talking is really paying off.
I think so. And that's right. And I think that communication has been improved over the years.
Yep.
And again, technology helps some of that.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, we're doing a comprehensive parks plan. And some people, I've seen a little bit of criticism like, oh, that's a waste of money. What is that for? Well, you have to know what the people in your community want.
That's right.
And so, you put out a survey. Government's going to spend money on something, and if it's a park, you want to make sure that it's a park. Is that a passive walking trail, or is it a tennis court? And So you've got that going on. That's in partnership with all of the cities, and we'll get some good information out of that. Each city will be able to take that back to their own councils, and hey, what's our future look like for the future of our park? So we're doing a lot of things like that I think are kind of nerdy. Yeah. But they'll yield fruit in the future.
Sure.
So
it makes people happy. It makes them more happy, et cetera.
Yes.
And we need, and that kind of stuff, believe it or not, when you're recruiting people to come live here and do, that stuff matters. Schools obviously is big, but there's a lot of issues, recreation, especially with young people. What do young people want? I don't know. But I mean, I know a little bit about what they want, but
well, there's a lot of data out there. I mean, you can talk to your folks at the Chamber of Commerce and Workforce Development. There is a lot of data where people have moved to this, I'm going to pick where I want to live and then I'll find the job, instead of I'm going to follow the job and that's where I'm going to live. And that's a big shift that's been taking place.
I don't know if I could do that, but I kind of do. I kind of done that in my life a few places, but in today's job market, you can do that.
Yes, you can.
If you got skills, you're going to get a job.
Yes.
And so we want to get the water. Where can I roller skate? Where can I do different things? Depends on what your interests are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never developed a lot of social interest. I didn't say, oh great, let's go. We ran, we lifted weights. I mean, but I'm a child of the 70s. So I mean, or 60s, whichever one you want to use. But when you get into adolescence and early adulthood, the 70s and 80s were much different than today.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so scary when they talk about 50 years ago and 40 years. Like my son was saying today, there's this thing they're talking about, and it was the 70s thing. I can't remember what it was. I'm thinking, yeah, I was around for that. Some policies, and he has an honors AP class in American government. He likes it a lot. But
I think it's kind of interesting with as advanced as we're becoming in the tech world and how our children have been raised with that. Mm-hmm. There's still this great longing for some traditional elements.
Sure.
And so it's kind of interesting from a cultural perspective, sitting back and watching all that happen. My kids were on, so I look at Atticus and Davis and Avery, they were always, in all of their classes, they were the last kids to get a smartphone. So
but you raised them right. I mean, that's different.
Yeah, I mean, we were protected. We gave them a phone. They could, we did the upgrade. They got the little keyboard, but they didn't have all the data flow. I really worry. This is one area where I worry, Alan, about this younger generation that's growing up with that access to all kinds of information, and what's that going to do to them? What's it going to do to their fragile minds? I don't know.
People
that all
worry
the
about
data is
people,
in yet.
but people worry about access to bad things and other things. That's not what I obviously worry about that.
Yeah.
But I worked with and started a long time ago in Denver with Charlie Ergen, the chairman of DISH, and I said, at some point these people, and we're driving in a van around the state, but at some point these people are going to get overloaded. 100 channels and this and that.
Yeah.
And I had no vision of today. Obviously, that was 40 years ago, exactly 40 years ago. Maybe 41 now. But the bottom line is that we were young in our 20s, but think about all the data that's coming into their mind 24/7.
I know.
I read a newspaper. Watch TV. I can tell you everything on the TV, but I don't know. I don't know if they can process. I think they're overloaded.
I even look at myself, and especially my eyes stay red now because it's a Zoom world and I'm on the computer. But I find myself challenged with focus, and I've got this little journal that I write in and do my goals for the day, and it has a section on there. It's actually based on the monk lifestyle. It's called a monk manual. And it's
she is so healthy.
It's reflect on, what are your challenge, what's your priority? And I find myself writing over and over, ability to focus. And because if you're working, we've got all of this. I've got the phone, the watch phone, and then here come the emails, and then Messenger, and then I'm the mayor. I can't just ignore and then just to sit there and try to focus, I find it very difficult. I don't know if you're challenged with that or not.
Well, You know, I just gave up a while back. I mean, I focus on the 4 or 5 tasks a day. I get up and I say, okay, I sit and drink my coffee, my Diet Coke. I don't eat breakfast, and I'm sitting there. I say, okay, I'm gonna get these 4 things done no matter what.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm usually at 2.5. But I mean, I do some hard mental stuff because of creation and it's different stuff. But I'm just more simple. I don't have the capacity. I've learned in life that if you run 100 miles an hour, and I'm guilty, you know me, you've known me a long time, I'm guilty that you don't seem to do quite.
Yeah.
And you're healthy, but you got one of those books that says how to organize. You know, you've read all that material and studied it. And basically you get up and you have a basic plan during the day and quiet time and everything else like that. And I just can't do all that. I don't have it in me. Tell me what Anderson County's got to look forward to this year as we get down to the end. Anything going on?
Well, I'm just so hopeful that we finally come through COVID. I do think that's just a stress on everybody, county commissioners and city council and all of that, Alan. So I'm just prayerful for us as a nation, as a state, that we can come through that. You know, I think Anderson County is not going to be like any other county in the nation, in that we're still going to deal with some of these national issues and impacts like inflation and supply chain challenges and workforce issues, and we're all struggling. You know, what's going on? Why are people leaving the workforce?
What is that?
I don't know.
Are we running out of people?
You know, there is a great book that I read several years ago called Men Without Work. And I even went to a couple of our utilities as an example, and was highlighting some of the data from that about the number of men that just withdrew from the workforce.
Wow.
And I said, we're doing something wrong. Maybe the pendulum, you know, and I'm a woman in government. Maybe we've done something in education where we've made the classroom, you know, not appealing to men or the workforce. I don't know, but we're out of time. We'll have to talk about it another day.
How much time did he yell at us?
30 seconds.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I try. We really need to get you on. I bring Chuck on every 6 months, and you need to be on. Chuck does a good job for us, and we get it all done. And we want to congratulate Jerry Creasy on a great career.
Yes,
he's done such a wonderful job.
Always a statesman.
Yeah, he is. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next Thursday night at 7.
Ryan Spitzer, for Circuit Court Judge, is also sponsoring tonight's program. Ryan is a prosecutor and Army medic for 6 years and a lifetime Tennessean. A graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, Ryan is dedicated to serving the citizens of Anderson County.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex is about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was point man on foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs, my left hand, in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
To watch Alex take on this mountain, that's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look, that's